Hi everybody, it's Kathy again from Kathy Loves to Scrap. Welcome to a new video on a page that I made of my son and I when he was little. He's now 30, so this is an old photo. But I made it as a complimentary page to one I had already done previously, and I had already done the photo, so I didn't want to waste it. So this is the page that I've made, and it's involving some stamping, some modelling paste and things. I'm using a Kaisercraft brand, the Kaisercraft brand of paper here that you can see, and Kaisercraft cardstock. So this photo I'm going to use. It looks little here, but it actually ends up taking up the page and really grabbing your eye. So I'm going to start off first of all by cutting down my blank paper, and I'm going to use about 3/4 of an inch off each side, so that will fit nicely on my page. And I'm just trimming it down using my Fisket slide cutter, my favourite tool that I use religiously on every layout, making sure that it lines up so that I've got a straight line. So I've taken 3/4 off each side. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another Kaisercraft stencil. This one here is their gum leaves. And I'm going to be using Tim Holtz dauber here, and I'm going to just stamp in this dauber. It is like a Versa marker, so that it will pick up the embossing paste or the embossing powder that I'm going to put on. So as you can see, quickly do that. I'm using peeled paint distress embossing powder just to give it the colour of the gum leaves. And so you can see the Versa mark there in where I've done it through the stencil, using my favourite bowl for my distressing, and I put on enough powder to cover and give an even coating. Now you'll notice when I'm doing this that the distressing daub did not go as evenly on everywhere, but that's okay because it gives the effect that I'm after, a mottled sort of thing like the Australian bush, where our gum leaves are all different colours and shades. So from here I'm then going to use the heat embossing tool, and I'm going to adhere that embossing powder to the page. And so you can see that the leaves are now standing out on the page. So I'm going to repeat that process using the dauber again, putting on the powder, and then the heat process. And I do this a couple of times to build up my base. And now I don't want it all so heavy with my leaves, as I will be covering some of it. Moving on, I'm now going to use the modelling paste and just an old card that I have. And I use the modelling paste to show some depth to my leaves. And I smooth it across. I'll be using a credit card, an old credit card. Now I'm going to put that to the side to dry. Now taking back to my paper to get started again, I'm going to cut off the edge as you do when you're using papers. Put it to the side. Now I'm going to use this paper and I'm going to cut a frame so that I can tie my page together. And once again, my frame is a 3/4 inch frame all the way around. I like to use my papers to the best, and so that I get the maximum use out of my papers, so they do multiple things. And always I have a frame. I just like it. It sort of finishes off my pages, I feel. They're not just empty and they have a complete process. Alright. So, almost finished with my framing here. Taking out the piece of paper from the middle, because that is where I'm going to cut my circle from. So you can see here, I now have my frame to start my page. And I'm just going to put that to the side. Using the Cricut, I cut an 8-inch circle out of that. I've now got my distressing tool, and I'm using pumice stone or pumice stone, depending how you pronounce it, but always do pumice as in practice. And I'm going to distress the edge using the distressing tool. And I'm going to quickly go around the edges here, roughing them up just to give it a bit of dimension so that when it sits on the page it actually stands up a little bit and doesn't blend totally to the page, so it gives a bit of dimension. Using the pumice stone, I'm going to add some shadowing, and now you can see that my leaves are dry, the modelling paste, and it's just over the embossing, so it gives another effect, a shadow type effect, and the layering of the gum trees as you would see in the bush. Okay, I'm adding in here some pumice stone around the edges just so that it lifts off the edge. I'm looking here and I slightly forgot that the Kaiser Craft has an extra edge on the end of its cardstock, so my edging is not exactly even. So before I put the circle down, I think I'm going to tape it, but no, I'm not happy with the fact that it's not even, so I think I'm going to cut off a little bit more just to make it even. I'll start with 1/4 of an inch and see how that looks when I put it there. Lining up my edges along the 1/4 inch mark. I'm going to use my slide to cut off that little tiny piece. And I always take little bits at a time because I don't want to overdo, because you can't fix it once it's overdone, but if it's underdone you can fix. So I'm still measuring, not quite right, so I think I'll just take a little tiny bit more. So now I'm just going to take 1/8 of an inch more off. That's just using my guidelines here. I'm going to slide it, and there you go. Now I have got my page nice. And I am now going to add the inking around the edge again to lift the detail, and I'm going to use the dauber, and that just now makes that edge stand up. Using my tape, my adhesive double-sided tape, it is acid free. I'm now going to remove the edging of the tape and put it in there so that it goes together. Okay, now using the dauber again and the pumice stone, I'm just inking the edge. Now let's place the circle into the layout, and I'm just going to map things out a little bit to get my spacing correct so I know where the circle is going to go. This too, I'm going to double-sided tape. You can use whatever adhesive you like. Remember, the circle is 8 inches, and I use the Cricut to cut it, but you could use a dinner plate to go around and trace and cut, or if you have other circle cutting tools, you can use those. Putting down the tape to make sure that it adheres. That's my preferred adhesive. You can use your preferred, and I'm quite generous with my tape. Just layer it up, put it in across. Even the crisscross allows it to sit on the page nicely. And so far to date, and I've been scrapping now for quite a while, my pages with tape still hold together well. If you use a good tape, it will. So taking that off, I'm now going to put my circle onto my page, lining it up, putting up the top with the leaves to the top that I like, give it a bit of colour, and I'm just putting it in. And yes, you can hear my Corella in the background screeching. Jack is a bit loud sometimes, and I apologise. Alright, now here's my photo, and I'm going to need some backing here, and I've just got 2 little 6x6 pieces that I've gotten from our budget discount store, and it was an Australian themed pack, and it's actually where I'm using my ephemera from and my sticker pack from as well. It was a good little pack from there. Measuring my photo, I know that it's about 3 3/4, so I'm going to cut them down to 3 3/4 so that they marry in and mirror the photo. I've got a koala page which matches the photo, and I've got a gum leaf which is a smaller version of the larger print, so it ties in beautifully even though they're different paper ranges, but it's still the same thing. Using the pumice stone, I'm going to ink the edges, and that will allow it to be highlighted around there. They'll go in behind layer it up. It's always good to build layers. Oh dear, there's little Ivy having a little talk. She knows I'm here and I'm not actually going out to us, so she's getting a little distressed. Alright, so put that there, and now I'm going to use the ephemera, as I said, from that same pack. And I'm going to use it because it's all native Australian additions, and putting it in. And I like to build my clusters. Now I have got my title here, which I've cut out on a die, and it says you and me, but instead of using the solid block, I'm just going to use the outline so it doesn't overpower the layout, and you'll see that it actually complements. And I'm just tying that all together there, building up the clusters to support that so that it builds the page. And I don't actually put anything down until I've had a play with the clusters. And I've got the waratahs down there in the bottom, and I'm going to look where else. I need to add a little bit more here. This one here is a little card, and on it it says no place like home, and then exploring our backyard, which is quite relevant to the journey that we had on that day. We were up exploring with my younger son for one of our first big little exploring things that he got to experience, touching the koalas there. It was a good day, and he actually enjoyed that opportunity to touch the koalas and pat the koalas. So I'm just layering up here and adding additional pieces of the ephemera pack to build it. Got a koala. I think I'll just put it in down here around the title. Ties it in, you and me. It could be you and me, my son and I, or you and me and the koala. So that ties in nicely. Just putting the butterfly there. Looking at all the little bits that I've got left. Oh, this leaf. Do I need to put it up the top? No, that covers those cards too much. Not really. Yeah, no, I don't really like it there. I think I'll bring it back down here to this bottom cluster and extend it out. Yeah, and then that way it encompasses the title, builds it all together, ties the koala in. Putting in some more red up here to tie the top and the bottom together. And I'm just going to add, another little koala there. Looks like it's climbing onto the photo. Now I'm just going to build and add. Now sometimes when I do a cluster, I'll take a photo of the page so I can realign the cluster up where I thought it would be. But I'm just going to go by memory and feel. I'm going to pop this waratah so that it stands off the page. Alright, so now I'm going to move to the top, and I'm going to quickly just adhere each of these. The photo I'm going to pop with some pop tape, and I'm going to move it down a little bit more so that it actually leaves a lot more of those gum leaves showing, but it ties the photo in with the whole concept of the circle. The layering of the cards, as you can see, I can lift and put them in and it all goes together. Putting back that, I'm making the koalas and the outside edges of the ephemera be loaded on with some pop tape so that they've got that lift off the photo. Then I can build in behind them with extra pieces of ephemera to make that work. And as you can see, it's all coming together, the hints of red tied together. Now I'm using some stickers, and on those stickers from the sheet in the ephemera pack, one said family, another one said hello little one, then another one said timeless memories, and of course one says today. Now I'm putting in some enamel dots, and there you have it. I have created a cluster around the page. I've used some stamping, some model pasting, stenciling, putting it together, and then I've put it all through the frame, as you can see there, and it's come together quite nicely, I think. I have my modelling, paste and stamping. I have one cluster here with a title, another cluster around the photos and extended them out, and they're layered and they've got dimension, and they put some lift there, and as you can see the title is in nice. Now just to finish off, if you like what you've seen so far, don't forget to like the video, and of course you subscribe for more ones. Down the bottom, I'm just adding in who is in the photograph because that's important, and I'm using a gel pen for that, and it's just my son's name and mine, and the year, which was 1995. So that's my son and I. And then I like to handwrite my journal on the back if I do not have it on the front, and that's just for future generations to read and recall what this was about. And it's in handwriting, which is important because handwriting is a dying art, and we just write across, putting the journal there on the back so anyone in the future can know who's in the picture and what it was and why it was significant. And there you have it. That's my layout. Thanks for watching. Once again, there's the layout. If you like it, leave a like and stay tuned for the next one.